Ready? Okay. Good afternoon. Is it on? Okay.
Hello.
Hi. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Ugh, it's either not on or on. If we'll get this meeting started, it's our first meeting of the year of the new session. So welcome back, everybody. We still have two members that have joined us by Zoom. So we now have a quorum and we can get started. I know that people have meetings, so we probably will be moving pretty rapidly. First of all, I had people come to my office and talk to me about a service, it's a state service that they offer, one that I did not know about. And as I have always done, sometimes we need to hear about services or that the state offers that are little known, but are very important to our constituents. So with that, the people from Georgia Radio Reading Services, if you would like, whoever's going to speak in this brief period, come up and sit at the table and introduce yourself. Take your time. Or move over. Yeah, there we go. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. Thank you for having us today, especially your first session of the year. My name is Rebecca Arian, and I am from the Georgia Radio Reading Service. And we are a valuable resource that a lot of people around Georgia don't know about. We're free of charge for any citizen of Georgia who is visually impaired or print impaired. And we serve the entire state of Georgia. So what we're trying to do is tell you a little bit about us so that you can help us get the word out to your constituents. Our mission is to improve the quality of life.
Will you introduce or we need to introduce your guest?
Hello, everyone. My name is Jasmine Sebrin, and I am one of the producers for the Georgia Radio Reading Service, and I am also a listener.
Oh, good. Well, I like your voice, so I imagine other people like listening to it also. So, okay, I'm sorry, I just wanted to start. So welcome to the General Assembly, the House meeting. So thank you. Go ahead. Now I won't interrupt you.
Okay. So our mission is to improve the quality of life for anyone who is print disabled. We were actually started in 1980, and we provide programming, which is broadcast across the state 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and our readers record printed material. And we provide information, news, especially local news, and connection and entertainment to our listeners. We're currently located in the GPB building, which is off of 14th Street. We're separate from them. We're not underneath their umbrella at all. We're a separate nonprofit, but they do a great job supporting us with technology and help. But we serve approximately 11,500 people that we can count right now. It's a broadcast, so there are many others, but those are the people that we've actually sent devices to. We serve all different people. We have programming from children's books all the way up to senior programming like AARP and Senior Scene. We have special programming for veterans, for people who are unemployed, for people who are newly blind, which is another great group that we can help get services to. We have 200 volunteers. That's who voice our program, all through volunteers, 200 volunteers across the state. Many of them have served for many years. They record at home. We used to be in the GPB building, but we were able to transfer and pivot and record at home. And what we really specialize is in bringing the local newspapers, those little newspapers at the end of your driveway that keep you connected to your local community. Unless someone comes to your home and reads that to you, they're very hard to access for people who are visually impaired. So we do the Northside Neighbor, we do the Rome News Tribune, we do the Brunswick News. I'm from Henry County, so Henry Herald and Dublin Courier Herald. That's where we shine. Because if people don't have their local school board results, their local teams, anything, their local news, they're not able to really stay connected to their community, especially as they're older and they want to remain in place. So that is some of our most popular programming. And also the food ads. We don't think about it, but if you can't access the food ads for people who are usually on a limited income, something like the food ads every week are very important that you can't access. Retail store ads, drugstore ads, those are our most important programming. So we also do service programs, and this is also important. We bring service providers from across the state, whether it's Georgia Industries for the Blind down in Bainbridge or Center for Visually Impaired in Atlanta. And we do an interview with them showing what services are available here in Georgia. It's not that we don't have services. We have great services. It's just that a lot of times people don't know about them. So what we do is do a program where we explore them and walk with people, showing them what's available and how they access the services. We also have Eye on Blindness, which does personal stories of people who are visually impaired. And Capitol View is a monthly program where we bring people on. We've had Representative Katie Dempsey on talking about issues that are coming up in either local or state or federal legislatures that deal with disabilities so that people are aware of what's happening and how they can advocate for themselves. We do magazines, simple from Car and Driver to Oprah to Cosmo and Georgia Trend, all kinds of magazines to keep people connected. And in the evening hours, a lot of people are visually impaired, have a hard time sleeping. So we have book episodes from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. People are able to listen through a variety of ways, and it's important that the constituents, you have a variety of ways to connect to them. They can do it on their regular phone for someone who's visually impaired. Here in Atlanta, we're on the substation of WABE 90.1, but you need a special radio to access our programming. We're on the sub signal, and across the state, we're on GPB. So we send people the actual radio to listen to. Or the best way people can listen to now is using an Echo Dot. That's our most popular way for everyone to listen to. That technology has just changed the way that we can serve and people can access information. So we have an Alexa skill. And so all they have to do is say, Alexa, play Georgia Radio Reading Service, or play the Athens Banner Herald on the Georgia Radio Reading Service skill. It's just tremendous that we're able to offer this to people to keep them connected.
At this point, but I have one, and all I have to do
Mhm.
without any special programming or anything is just say what you said, that you wanted the reading program, and I can get it
On the
my dot.
TuneIn app. Yep.
Oh, okay.
On the TuneIn app. Right.
Okay.
And we have our own skill so that if they want to actually listen on demand, like say you just want to listen to the Athens Banner Herald versus just the regular stream, then you would use our skill. Yeah. So we're important because we keep people connected. We keep people in community, them independent, accessing services. And during COVID, this has really been a lifeline for people. Imagine when they can't have their family come to their home, they can't have their friends, and they can't even have service providers. We were the only way for people to get their local information. What are their hospital numbers? What is their community what's going on in their community? We really became truly a lifeline for some people. Our volunteers stepped up and out of the box and said, how can we help individuals if they need help and help them read things? So we went above and beyond to pivot and meet the needs of people who were really isolated. And again, free of charge, the devices, when we have them, we send them across. So we're just really trying to tell people that we're there. I feel like we're the best kept secret in Georgia. So,
one of the reasons I had her in the departmental budget, they became under threat of somebody, it's sort of an unusual service. And it's in an area where it didn't quite fit with everything else, and they didn't really understand. So one of my reasons for having them come is because I wanted all of us to know about it so that we can look and make sure that this doesn't get cut. It is truly a lifeline. I spent 40 minutes yesterday talking to a lady in the district with macular degeneration and telling me her frustrations in trying to get the ability to vote. She's moved from Florida, and her types, she wanted to go and trying to get somebody to take her, because she's just moved here. She's older and didn't want to bother her family and was having trouble in Cobb County. They have gotten it straight now. So she is registered to vote and will get her services. But her frustration level with becoming dependent, and her husband is 82, and she just frightened to death about what's going to happen when he is gone. And it's really a very frightening situation for an older person to be facing the loss of their sight. Ms. Jasmine, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? And if you don't mind, don't tell us anything you don't want us to know. Have you been blind since birth or as a child or?
Yes, ma'am. I have been blind since birth, so I don't have vision at all. So, of course, when I was growing up, I went to public school for a while, up until the 4th grade. And I did have a vision teacher, and I had a orientation and mobility instructor. And my vision teacher taught me Braille when I was in kindergarten. So I was fortunate enough to learn Braille. And I was fortunate enough to take orientation and mobility, which is a class that teaches you how to get around safely and independently, how to use the cane the right way, and how not to be afraid of crossing the street, and how to just familiarize yourself with different places. And I know that can be scary, and I'm speaking from experience. So I was able to take those classes, and I really didn't like public school because you know how cruel kids can be. You know how cruel they can be. So one day my mom was reading in a newspaper about a school for the blind in Macon called the Georgia Academy for the Blind. So when I left public school, I went to the Georgia Academy for the Blind down there in Macon, and they were very hands-on. And that's how I was able to learn how to use a computer with a screen reader called JAWS. And what JAWS stands for is Job Access with Speech. So it allows me to use the computer without using a mouse. Since I can't see the screen, it tells me everything on the screen. I can hear what I'm typing. I can browse the internet, check emails, and all that great stuff. And I can also do audio editing with it. And that's another great reason why I'm a part of GARS. I enjoy working there. I started working there in 2011. Before I worked there in 11, I was doing my internship with them in 2010. And then I left, came back, volunteered, and ever since then, it's been great ever since. So not only am I doing this for me, but I'm glad that I'm able to help the blind community, because it's a lot of people out there who are blind and visually impaired that don't know about this great service. So that's why I always say, get the word out. And it's really great. They let you know what's going on in and around the Atlanta area. If you're looking for something to do, you can always listen to a program called Atlanta Events. And that's the show that tells you what's going on in Atlanta, what concerts are playing. They tell you a lot of great places to eat. So, it's a great program to listen to. And my duty there, like I've stated at first, I'm one of the producers there. So I do audio editing. I edit book episodes. I make sure that the volunteers sounding great. It doesn't have to be over the top Broadway style, but it at least has to be right. So I listen for mistakes, and I listen for anyone that's getting tongue tied and things like that. And I also record the daily program guide, which is a schedule of the shows that follow. I've introduced the live reading of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I've closed the show. I've taken the readers into the break, and I've done field reporting. So,
first of all, thank you for your service to other people that have visual impairments, and for our state, because this is really important. We are an aging state. And with age, and I'm sure we will see greater increases in macular degeneration, and people who will at least lose part of their vision as they go into their 80s and their high 90s. So this is a very important program to be offering. Do any of the committee members have any questions they would like to ask? Okay, on Zoom, we have Representative Schofield. Kim?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I couldn't come off for a minute. I just first of all want to thank you for bringing this to the group. This is just so important. I work with an organization called Angel Eyes. And I see you nodding your head. You're very familiar with the work that we do with Angel Eyes for the visually impaired and blind community. And it's just so empowering that This community is thriving, and it's amazing. We use Angel Eyes, Madam Chair, is we do a lot of exercise and nutrition training. But one of the amazing things was during COVID, we have locations. They used to do them on site, the exercise programs. But when COVID came, we were no longer able to get together. So we moved to a virtual platform. And I'm happy to report that we are now, we started out with less than 100 people, and now we are in 17 different states. And we are actually in Canada and soon to be in Africa. I also wanted to acknowledge that, you are champions. I'm going to probably come down from my office and meet you two, because thank you for the work and the service that you provide. This is wonderful. And I just fully support anything that we can do to keep the monies in the budget and to really continue to get the word out in the community on how valuable the work that you do brings. So thank you, Madam Chair, for having them come today.
Okay, well, I'm just delighted that they came to my office to talk to me and to inform me about it. I was not familiar. I have a sister in Texas that's visually impaired due to a fall, had to leave her attorney practice and was very frustrated. And she has some vision, but it is really a very trying time for people who have had sight and do lose it. In your folders, everybody, if you didn't find them, there is a brochure that if you have it, I hope you will use it, copy it. If you have places, or let your constituents know, take a picture of it, put it out on your website, front and back, so that maybe it'll reach more people. Is there anything either of you would like to say in closure? I know this is a hurried time, or I know that that Mr. Brillman was with you, if there's anything.
Good afternoon. This is Bill Jones, and I am a listener of the Georgia Radio Reading Service. Like, I was an employee for 37 years. That was almost my entire career reading at GARS. And I can tell you, as a producer, I had such a wonderful time doing all the super things that Jasmine was talking about, and then some. And working with so many volunteers, that was one of my most favorite things, to work with all kinds of people from all walks of life. And as far as being what I've been benefiting as a listener, I can tell you something. Until the Georgia Radio Reading Service came along in 1980, I and many of us here in Georgia were limited to just a number of books and magazines, and no newspaper at all, except maybe a condensed version of the Sunday New York Times. But once the Georgia Radio Reading Service started, it was just like the whole world had been opened up to so many of us, myself included. And I just can't imagine life without the Georgia Radio Reading Service now. And, we've become more information oriented too. Rebecca mentioned local things like hospital services and emergency services. Those things we wouldn't have if we didn't have GARS. So we really need GARS. And, for those of you who are our state leaders, think about this. The vast majority of people who listen to the Georgia Radio Reading Service are people who lose their sight later in life, when they're middle-aged or older. And, one day, they can just go to the library and pick out any kind of book, or they can walk to their driveway and pick up a newspaper. And then the next day, those people can't do what they took for granted, what they've been doing. So, when you're getting ready to make a decision about bringing us back into the budget, ask yourself this question: what will my future be like? Maybe I can read just like that today, just any simple way, but what about tomorrow? What is my future going to be like? So think about that. And thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to talk to you.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for letting us hear what this service means to you. Thank you very much. Representative Tankersley, you had a question.
Thank you, Chairman Cooper. Yes, I do. I'm very excited about this. Thank you so much for being here. I'm in far South Georgia, maybe almost 4 hours. So I'm anxious to get back home and share this information with others. Does it matter how old your Amazon Dot may be? Do you need the most recent technology?
Not at all, as
Not-
long as she answers to Alexa or Echo.
Okay, yeah, I
she'll be
have an
good.
Alexa and I hope a lot of other folks do too.
Right.
And I was also curious, what is the blind population in the state of Georgia?
It's over 200,000.
Okay.
So there are so many more that we could serve, really just so many more that we could. And
Just
go
by getting the word out?
just by getting the word out. And well, hand in hand, I did want to talk, our funding last year was cut. We're actually housed under the Georgia Vocational Rehabilitation Agency, which has a mandate to serve people who need employment, and people with disabilities who need employment. Therefore, we're not necessarily a good fit for them. So when budget cuts came, they cut all of our state funding. Prior to this in 2006, we were line itemed in at 300,000. And the state gave us 64, and then that's a federal match through that matching 110, the federal 110 program of 246,000. So last year all of our state funding was taken away. So unfortunately, we've had to cut sending Echo Dots. When people have Georgia Gives Day, we don't do that. We do Amazon Prime Day. Send us a dot, donate a dot so we can send a device to people. That funding, because our budget is only $324,000 to run a 24-hour program, we had to cut service. We don't have extra to cut. So we had to cut employees and listening devices. So what we're trying to do is ask if we can get back up to that 2006 level of 300,000 and maybe get line items in, because we are going to be low hanging fruit at GVRA. We're going to be cut because we just don't match their mandate of getting people jobs, even though we do have career programming. So we're just not a good fit. So we thought we would bring more attention to it, because boy, for that little bit, $325,000. We serve a lot of people throughout Georgia, and we really need people to help look after us.
Okay, and you are with what department are you with?
We're funded under GVRA, Georgia Vocational Rehabilitation
Okay.
Agency. Yeah, and we were with Health and Human Services, and we've been with Labor. They just move us around. So-
Okay. Okay, well, I think that probably most of us on here will, how many of y'all are on appropriations? There we go. There we go. I'm not on appropriations by choice. Okay. Okay. So I think you've accomplished your purpose.
Oh,
Ms.
wonderful.
Jasmine, thank you for coming and putting a face to somebody who has grown up being unable to, see, and has benefited greatly from this program, and then become somebody who gives back. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
You're
much. This is a
welcome.
pleasure, a true pleasure. Thank you. for all
Thank you. You ladies have a good rest of your day. It gets a little close in here, and it's an obstacle course. Okay. Well, we're going to move on to House Bill 752. That's the Georgia Psychiatric Advance Directive Act. And we have a special person that is with us via Zoom. Former Representative Pat Gardner. Pat did the first of these bills. She worked on it tirelessly for several years. We couldn't get everybody to an agreement where I could even bring it up for a discussion. And she really didn't give up. So Pat, thank you for joining us by Zoom. And please, whatever you would like to say, and before we start discussing this bill, go just have your say.
Well, I'm thrilled that this is an issue that has finally come to prominence in the Georgia General Assembly. You know that I think I introduced it, well, maybe for the first time back in 03 or 05. In 2009, I actually got Speaker Ralston and Edward Lindsay to sign the bill. So there are people who have been in the General Assembly who have recognize the importance of this kind of treatment planning that would help keep those with mental illness out of our jails and out of the hospitals, frankly, and get the treatment that they're entitled to. So thank you so much for bringing this bill forward. I know the advocates have worked very hard to get all the players together, and I'm really thrilled that mental illness is finally taking prominence in the Georgia General Assembly this year. So thank you so much for doing it. I really appreciate it. It was a labor of love for lots and lots of years. So thank you.
Joining us. I'm sorry that we couldn't get everybody to the table to agree on how it could be. I think it's been 13 years, Pat, that this bill has been in one way or another, and we turn around and there'd be somebody against it in one way or the other, which leads me to the fact you have in your folder. We have discussed this in another meeting, and I really am not going to take discussion afterwards. But look at the people who are backing this bill. I mean, it's quite varied, and it's the people that deal with this issue. So Pat, you don't have one, but it's NAMI, the Carter Center, the Georgia Advocacy Office, the Medical Association of Georgia, the Parent Network, Georgia Psychiatric Association, Georgia Mental Health, the Behavioral Health Service Coalition, Resilient Georgia, the Georgia Psychological Association. So, I mean, it's across the spectrum. And so I really am glad that we have been able to come to that, and members from the State Bar of Georgia who have worked really hard for us to work out the problems and the questions about this bill. So with that, I'm going to let them present. We're going to let Dr. Ash, and who's doing it for the Georgia, both of you, or no?
We are, Madam Chairman. I'm Kyle King.
And Dr. Ash, is he coming in by Zoom?
I believe he
Okay.
was supposed to be on by Zoom.
I'm here on Zoom.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ash.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I appreciate you having us. Again, I'm Kyle King here with Nick Jurich on behalf of the State Bar. Madam Chairman, you've already covered a good bit of it, so I won't go over that ground again. I believe that what you have in front of you should be LC 338933S. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that is.
But, okay.
And of course, Representative Cooper convened a hearing during the special session in November. It was a slightly different version of the bill, but it was discussed in detail. So I simply wanted to call your attention to the few changes between that version and this one. The first of which appears on page 3 on lines 51 through 53. This was a change recommended by Legislative Council in clarifying the definition and including references to mental or emotional illness, developmental disability, or addictive disease, so as to bring that definition in line with the other definitions in Title 37. There also is a change at the bottom of page 11 and carrying over to the top of page 12, lines 268 to 271. For the most part, the sentence is the same, but it adds a reference to evaluations or treatment services under some code sections in Title 17. Those code sections are part of the criminal procedure portion of the code, dealing specifically with criminal defendants who have attempted an insanity defense or a lack of competence to stand trial. Obviously, those involve mental health services, but they've been exempted out along with certain other involuntary hospitalizations. And then finally, on page 34, beginning at line 811, continuing over onto page 35 with line 824, there's been a new change to a code section that did not appear in previous versions. This is the portion of the criminal code dealing with neglect to a disabled adult or an elder person. It creates an exemption already, as the code currently reads, for anyone acting in good faith in accordance with a living will, a durable power of attorney for healthcare, or an advance directive for healthcare. And that is simply being amended to include a psychiatric advance directive along with that. Otherwise, the bill is identical to what this committee considered back in November. And beyond that, Madam Chairman, we're happy to address any questions, but we don't want to take up any more of your time than necessary.
Questions from the committee on these changes? If you need an explanation or not. No questions from anybody? Go ahead. Representative Lott. Pardon? No, it's not turned on. Representative Lott. What's your number?
No.
Oh, okay. No one else? Okay. I think we'll be talking to you again. I have talked to Anna from the Hospital Association. There was one change I was interested in. Maybe another one would be that we might, and I promised we would move them. It was yesterday, so it was late to get it reprinted to come to it, but it would be, so I'll let y'all think about this. Should a patient go in and have an advance directive and also have a psychiatric directive, but the hospital really didn't know, and in those directives have appointed a different person to be the person they would deal with, that they really couldn't tell whether this was just a clearly psychiatric problem or whether it was done medically. You could have a psychosis from a medical issue, and that we would need to go back in maybe before when it goes over to the Senate and put in at that point who has making the decision. Does the medical doctor make the decisions about care or psych? So I would like for y'all to think about that, and then we'll discuss. And I had promised Anna with the Hospital Association that I would take those into consideration.
Absolutely, Madam Chairman. And we, as you know, as you read off that list, Dan Munster, who has worked on this from the state bar, and obviously the other folks who've been working on this for more than a decade, wanted to make sure that everyone who was an interested party, everyone who was a stakeholder, had their voice heard, and we're certainly willing to work with anyone who's willing to work with us.
Okay, well, and another thing that was suggested, why didn't we just put it with the a part of the advanced directive medical thing? And I said that we had gone through it and y'all had decided that this was a much more specific way to do. And the other thing I had forgotten, and this was before Anna's time when she was in charge of things, but in the past, there was a meeting with a lawyer for the association and stuff, and they said, if you put it with the advanced directive, we'll kill it automatically. And so we are, as I have said, we are much better to have this as a separate entity. Who we got at 5? Oh, Representative Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a comment, and I'm glad you brought that last point up because I had made a note regarding on this fact sheet for the Advanced Directive Act. At the 5th bullet, my question was who decides on the status, the medical doctor or who? So I'm glad that that's part of the consideration.
Correct.
So do you have any other? And to Pat and all, as we move to try to take away some of the stigma that goes along with mental illness, I think we're taking a real, for people who do have mental illnesses and occasionally have mental health crises, that this is a positive step, that it makes them feel like they have some control, even though this is not written in stone, and it's an optional thing that they can do, and what they ask for is what they would like to be considered. It's not what they absolutely have to have. It just gives that person some feeling of control over their lives. And I think that's so important. Sherry, she was nodding your head down there. You work with the mentally ill every day. So would you say that is one of the best things about this for those that want to use it?
Yeah, this
this is going to be a game changer. I think our next step is going to be education, though.
Right.
Just like the medical advanced directives, not as many people use it as they should. And maybe we can talk about policy, putting this in policy for mental health providers to at least offer it at their offices.
Okay. All right. What's the will of the committee? Pardon? I have a motion. I have a move to do pass. Do I have a second? Okay, I have a motion to pass and second. Wait a minute. I've got lights on. Who's number 18? Oh, they're off now. Okay. Is there any further discussion? No, seeing no further discussion, we'll take a vote. Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Pat, for joining us and all your work that you did on this. Thank you, gentlemen, for
Thank you.
everything that as your part of the bar has helped us. I really appreciate those efforts. And Dr. Ash, are you still with us?
I am. Could I
Okay,
make?
thank you,
could I-
sir, for all the hours that you have given us.
Could I make one brief comment?
Yes, Dr. Ash, sure. Everybody hold on just a minute. Certainly, sir. Sorry.
On the question of if there's an issue between the medical doctor and the mental health person, my understanding is that at line 96 of the bill, it says, unless a declarant indicates otherwise, a psychiatric advance directive shall take precedence over any advance directive for healthcare executed, et cetera. So while I'm not a lawyer, my own reading of this was that that issue actually is addressed in the bill. And I'll just defer to the attorneys as to whether it really should be interpreted that way.
Okay, I will have, that is something that we need to discuss, and I will have you discuss it and have your input with Anna from the Hospital Association, and we will go from there, sir. Is that okay?
Great.
Dr.
Yeah,
Ash?
thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. 96. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.